Welcome to the Mama Needs a Moment podcast. We are your hosts, Chrissy
and Cindy,
co-founders of Her Health Collective.
We are two moms obsessed with changing the way moms take care of themselves. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in. It is such an honor to introduce Ruth Klein to all of you. Ruth has a very impressive list of accomplishments, and having her here to share her knowledge is so exciting. She is the author and founder of the nonprofit Universal Mom, which aims to help children and teens uncover their talents through the art of writing. Ruth has a master's degree in clinical psychology and a master's degree in spiritual psychology with an emphasis on health, consciousness, and healing. She is passionate about helping youth reach their full potential by believing in themselves. Prior to starting Universal Mom, Ruth led the nonprofit Self Esteem Council for 22 years, which focused on going into high schools to work with sophomores and juniors to help them change the perceptions of their lives and increase their self-esteem and confidence. Ruth is the author of 7 best-selling books, and her most recent book was released at the beginning of 2024 titled Conscious Connection. This was just a snapshot of her accomplishments, but we are thrilled to have Ruth here to share more with us. Welcome, Ruth.
Oh, it's so great to be here. So great to be here.
Yes, I want to let you know that as I was researching you and reading about you, I signed myself and my oldest daughter up to receive notifications from your website to start helping with self-esteem and all of the things. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Children, families, self-esteem, confidence, that is all part of my love of generational legacy. Because as a parent, we don't realize it, and maybe we do, if we're really conscious, that we're creating a legacy. Those beautiful, beautiful humans, we're sharing our values, we're sharing the way we see the world, and then they can extrapolate, do their own thing, but that's part of creating a legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I'm also very excited to dive into this conversation with you. I think what you do, the work you do, is so incredibly important because teens in particular are at such a stage of life. It's such a defining moment in their lives. And there is so much coming at them from hormones, from society, from the pressure that they put on themselves, that parents put on them, extracurricular activities, all of it. It's such a heavy burden to bear. And that is really the foundation of our self-esteem. I think about how much teens, especially if you look at things like eating disorders or teen depression, or like you can go down all these paths and it shows up in different ways, but it's becoming more and more prevalent, and it is very worrisome.
Yes.
So such an important conversation we're going to have today. Before we dive in though, I'm going to go with a surprise question.
Ooh, I love surprises.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. You strike me as someone that loves surprises. It's a very, very good energy from Ruth to our listeners. And I'm sure you'll feel it as she's talking. But I want you to choose a number between 1 and 10.
7 came to me.
All right, 7 it is. Okay, Ruth. Oh, this is a really good question for you. What was a game changer in your life?
That's beautiful. There are many. The biggest one was having children, deciding to have children and having 3 beautiful children. The other is I had a master's degree in clinical psychology. And for whatever reason, something was missing. I didn't know what it was. Then I found out about another master's program called spiritual psychology with an emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing. And I fought it. I don't need that. I went to one of their orientations. Oh, no, I don't need this, which is interesting because that which we are most against most likely is what we need, just as a little piece there. And so after something like the second year of so many people telling me You really would love it, and on. And I ended up going through it. And the first day I was in class, I thought, wow, I feel like home. And it was a 3-year program, and it was incredible, incredible. That was the missing part. I didn't know it at the time, to having a holistic view of the person, a holistic view of how our mind works, how our heart works, how our perceptions work. And there's a big intuitive piece that I have that I, again, fought. People would say, Ruth, you're so intuitive. Fought it, fought it, fought it, because I thought it was, yeah, uh-huh. Another point, that which comes easily to us, many times we dismiss.
Wow. Very true.
So that
Very
which
true.
comes easily to us, we dismiss.
Many times we dismiss because it's just so easy. It's
Yeah.
just, we know it. We have this idea that it has to be hard, or it has to take a whole lot of 100,000 years to do, or hours. Kidding on the years. But there are things that come easily to us that we do not value yet. And, as far as I'm concerned, as a young girl, I thought, wow, Olympians, they're so incredibly good. And yet they have coaches. How's that even possible? And then as I got older, I realized, wow, we have blind spots. No matter how wonderful we are, no matter what we do in the world, no matter how loving we are, we all have blind spots. And a good coach can help you see the blind spots in a loving way that doesn't criticize you, that doesn't put you down, that helps you see through a different lens. And that's what I love about spiritual psychology. What I do with my clients is, including my kids, the teens and the younger, I elevate them to be able to look down and see more clearly, if that makes sense. If I'm in a plane and I'm on the ground, I can only see outside those windows. But when I start to elevate, I can see so much more. I could all of a sudden see more of a hologram, if you will.
So you're zooming out, right? Getting a different perspective by zooming out and getting the elevated perspective of looking down.
Yes, and I would say it would be zooming in,
Mm.
zooming in, a different perspective. And so many of our parents can alleviate so much tension by looking through a different perceptual lens.
Mhm.
Because I can see the cup half full, or I can see the cup half empty, or I can see the cup that has dirty water, that has a speck in it, or I can see clean water, or I don't like the cup that the water's in. All these different ways that we perceive the same thing. And if we're open and curious to another way of perceiving, whether it's a parent or a teen or a young person, what a difference it makes. In addition to that piece, we have forgotten, in such a hurry, we have forgotten that we need to step back and create our intention. What do we want? At the end of the day, what do we want? And it reminds me, with the 3 kids when they were living at home, their rooms were a mess, a mess. And I learned a long time ago, I've got to choose my battles. And I remember what my dad said years ago. He said, and he's from Europe, and he said, honey, and they came from a family of 9 kids, I think. And his mother would go look in the beds. And if the beds were empty, she was happy. Why is that? Because the children were healthy and they were at school. And it just hit me when I heard it. And then what I would do, the rooms were just, oh, gee, mini cricket. I don't know how they didn't fall and break a leg. But then again, that's their space. I have to honor their space. But I would look at it and then I would close the door and say, thank you, God. They're healthy. Then I was fine. And it's that kind of perceptual lens that we can start to create.
Mm-hmm.
I often call it heart-centered lens. It's through a heart-centered eyes. And in that place, we set intentions. For me, that intention was, I'd love to have had my kids clean their room. Would have loved it. And it would have loved to have the clothes washed when everybody else's clothes were washed. But it wasn't going to happen. And I was going to look at it a different way, because at the end of the day, my intention as a parent was to be able to stay connected to my child. I'm willing to discipline them. I'm willing to be stern if I need to. I'm willing to do positive reinforcement to continue those behaviors that I feel would be good for them. But at the end of the day, the intention is to stay connected. Hence the book, Conscious Connection.
We're definitely going to talk more about that, and I'm looking forward to it for sure. That's so beautiful. It's something that I need to hear very often, because my kids are not neat. They keep a lot of stuff, and they get things out and don't put things back. We have a 13 and 11-year-old, so it's taking me a long time to accept that that's the way that it is. And to be honest, I don't think accept is the right word. I have not accepted it.
Yeah, it's surrender almost. But
Yeah.
I'll we can get into this, and maybe I can offer some suggestions. But there's also, behavior. We as adults and children and teens, we do things and there's a payoff. And so maybe change the payoff, because the payoff right now sounds like you're just putting up with it. And that's not in alignment, sounds like, with what you would like. And what's the payoff that the children, well, they can make a mess and just go on their merry way. So is there something else that you can do that would help them clean up, at least in the front room? If they want to have a mess in their bedrooms, more power to you. That's your homeland. But when it starts to infringe upon the home, the living room or the family room or bathrooms or something like that, we need to have a discussion. And it's not so much a discussion as, mom, dad, what's the intention? What do you want to happen?
This episode is sponsored by Her Circle, the supportive and welcoming community for moms created by Her Health Collective.
Her Circle is a welcoming and supportive community for moms who are passionate about making change for themselves, their families, the community, and the world. Together, this village of women are revolutionizing the way moms take care of themselves.
From an active, private online community and the incredible daily chats hosted there, to our many virtual gatherings, including support groups, Moms Night Out, volunteer opportunities, book club, family adventures, coffee chats, and so much more. We love providing moms the chance to connect and create authentic relationships with one another.
The network of experts in Her Circle are a phenomenal resource and provide great learning experiences for moms on topics ranging from women's health to parenting. We cover the issues that matter to moms the most, from virtual expert Q&As to one-on-one Wellness Minute consultations and support groups. We are committed to getting moms in front of the information, experts, and support they need most.
To learn more about Her Circle, head to www.herhealthcollective.com/her-circle. We have a limited number of spaces and the doors only open a few times a year. So be sure to add your name to the no obligation waitlist so you are the first to know when the doors officially reopen.
The intention is, I want the child to put their stuff away, at least throw it in their bedrooms without a hassle. That's what I want. I want to stay calm for me, and I want them to stay calm. So how can I make this work? And I think that's one phrase that I always use, and I still continue to use now that the children are grown, in any myriad of ways. How can I make this work? And just by staying curious and open, the answers come. I have a great example. So I wanted to go 2 hours away to a meeting. I had decided I wasn't going to go out anymore in the evenings for meetings. I was going to stay home. What was I going to do? And then it came to me, you know what? My husband can leave work a little earlier. I can round up the kids. We had a van and we went into LA. I was 2 hours away from LA. So then the family dropped me off at this writing PR group that I loved. And about 2.5 hours, they went to a deli. They went and got some soul food. And then they went and played miniature golf. And then they got into their 90s. And then they picked me up. Now, did I care they didn't brush their teeth that night? Nope. Did I care they got to bed late that night? Nope. And so they went to pick me up. I was excited because of the program. They were excited. And I knew it was a win when one of the children said, Mommy, when are we going to go to your meeting again?
Yes.
How can you make it work? Just by staying open, just by being curious. How can you make it work? And for you, Cindy, how can you make it work? It plays itself in everything we do.
I'll definitely have to think about that. A lot of times I center it around how it will help them feel, because it feels so much nicer when things are picked up rather than cluttered. For at least in our house, it builds anxiety for us when we've got a lot of stuff around us. But I tend to focus on the feeling piece of it. Wow. You started off, Ruth, with a bang. This first question, it was all centered around you. And then it got into this. Goodness gracious. I'm excited for the rest of it. As we stated in the introduction, you led a nonprofit called Self Esteem Council for 22 years. And within this organization, you focused on going into high schools to work with sophomores and juniors to help them increase their self-esteem and confidence. And from what I've read, it was extremely successful program. It was well received by people. And that led you to create your own nonprofit.
The first nonprofit I created was Self Esteem Council. And then after 22 years, we needed to close it down because the mentors were too busy. At one time, we were in 6 high schools. We had 45 volunteer mentors. Wow. And we trained all of them. And I'm a believer in positive reinforcement. I believe that is the best way to learn. And so we were with these girls, these young girls and boys, for less than 10 hours in 5 months. Now, these young, beautiful teens, many of them had high truancy rates. Many of them, not all of them, had one parent in the family, usually the mother. Many, they didn't care about school, really. Their grades were not the best. There were anywhere from 3 to 5 mentors per 10 kids. And we focused in on them. No cell phones. It was usually always a hot meal. And we had 5 topics we chatted about. The third week was how it's not so much what happens to you, it's how you handle what happens to you. So that was the week of adversity. And we really listened. The first 2 months, I'll give you an example of a success story. This young lady was so shy. She would barely talk and she would look down. She wouldn't look at you when she spoke and barely speak for session 1, session 2. In session 2, one of the mentors was having lunch with her. And so during lunch, we were very engaging. And she said she had a teapot collection. So the mentor said, could you bring it next month? And she said, yes. The third month, she brought it. And she brought it in this box. And we asked her at lunch, would you share with us a story about your teapots? So she gingerly took one out, unwrapped it, told us about that teapot, set it down, took out another one, gingerly unwrapped it, showed that one, where that was from, put it down, and she has something like 5 of them. After that third week, week 4, she told us that there was a girl sitting by herself on a bench at school, and she went up to her and started talking to her. And in the program, she started looking at us and talking. Now, if you want to unpack that, what happened?
Well, it sounds like you were connecting with her over something that had very special meaning to her, and that you made her feel important, where her feelings are important, her experiences are important. That's what I took from
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And she felt listened to.
Mm-hmm.
She felt supported. This is what conscious connection is about. We
Beautiful.
can say that we love our children. We love our children. But then there's so many teens in rehab where they don't feel that their parents loved them. How does that happen? These beautiful kids and wonderful parents. How did that happen? It's not enough to love our children. We also have to find out if they feel loved, if they feel seen, if they feel accepted. That's the name of the game. And so I help parents do that. I had a teen and highly anxious and just awesome all around. She was leaving the house one day and her mom said, "Do you need lunch money?" The teen got really upset with the mom. And the mom was to connect with me on, any conversation that she felt was out of line. And so she contacted me and I said, "Well, would you like me to interpret that for you?" There's what a mom or dad say, there's the child's reaction, and then in between there's an interpretation. And usually it's a misinterpretation. So we've got to go to the interpretation. We've got to go at a higher level. Remember that elevation piece? So I said, "Your daughter is already anxious going to school. She's thinking about what's going to happen at school, how's she going to show up, what she's going to do, and she's fearful. She's highly anxious. And when you ask her if she has money for lunch, it's too much for her. It takes her off, and she's going to respond with upset." But the mom says, "What happens if she doesn't have money?" Then she's hungry. She's hungry that day. And if she's hungry, she'll remember to ask for food money. But the thing is, one of her friends will probably share some food with her. And so the mom said, "So I'm not supposed to say anything?" I go, "Nope. She knows that she can come to you for lunch money." And it dissolved that piece and she could start to understand it. We need to look through heart-centered eyes. We need to have a different perception of what we see, what we hear. Because, I'm a mom. We take things personally. We take things personally. We don't mean to, but we do. And, there's a running joke in my family. My daughter says, "Well, of course, Mom, it's all about you." And we laugh. And I go, "Yeah, it really is." But it's not.
Have you seen a shift over the years? Because this first program, the Self Esteem Council, you worked in for 22 years, and then you're working with kids more now. Have you seen a shift in the necessity of implementing support for the
Absolutely.
teens? You have what? So what's
Absolutely.
led to these shifts, and how can parents help with all of this?
Oh, right. Okay. So lots of questions there. Great questions. So first of all, there's a higher level of anxiety now, high level of anxiety. And this anxiety is preventing preteens and teens from thinking on their own, from focusing on schoolwork, from just focusing because they have this thing going back here. And a lot of it is the social media. A lot of it is, these teens have experienced a lot. And even though we did not have a war on our land, if you will, it's been tough. I mean, think about how the pandemic for parents, but for children, their whole social life was cut off. And now they're with parents full time, and the parents are with the children full time. It's no one's fault. And then there's social media. And then people that are bullies stand behind social media, the wall of social media. I've seen a much higher level of anxiety. And so, what needs to happen there is it's more of a cognitive way to look at it. It's important to let our teens and our preteens and our younger ones know There are choices now, because right now they only see one way to go and they don't even know what way that is. In this case of the anxious teen, she would say certain things, and then I would say, what's another way to think of that? And for the first time, she stopped to think, what's another way she could think? And at first, she couldn't think of another way because our thoughts go, we have 65 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And most of those thoughts are the same. That's why it goes into the circular. And we've got to break that. We've got to break it. We've got to lovingly break that. That's why, movement is so important. That is why getting out in nature is so important. That is why putting away the phone for extended periods of time. And I don't care if these are teens, I don't care if this is an adult. And here's the thing, we're role models. So if we're on our phone all the time and we tell our kids to put their phone away, there's a disconnect there. We're role modeling the very behavior we don't want our children to do. Is that fair to our children? No. Because here's the deal. We learn more by what we see, not how someone tells us something. So if it is not in alignment, if it is not consistent, at my home, even with my grown kids, there's no phone at the table. As much as I adore my kids, as important as the world is to them and vice versa, no. And so as a parent, how can we lovingly create loving, healthy boundaries? And interestingly enough, it's not just for our children, it's also for us.
I loved our talk with Ruth.
Yes, she is filled with so much wisdom and so many great stories. And I feel like was able to really walk away with a lot of golden nuggets from our time in our conversation with her. What were some of your favorite aha moments?
Well, I mean, she started right off the gate. I said this in the episode. She started off, even in our get to know you question, giving us information that would benefit us in our lives. And I think one of the things that I really took away was when she was talking about the messy rooms. I deal with that a lot in our house, trying to reconcile with the fact that things are messy. It's not going to be presentable all the time. People that come to my house that see it messy are my true friends, and people who will judge me are definitely not. So I loved the part where she said, at the end of the day, what do we want with our kids? What is the ultimate goal? And have an intention to stay connected with my kids. And one of the other things is to stay curious and open to the answers that come out of their mouths, but then also for me, the answers that come to me.
Yeah, yeah. I had quite a few from this first part of our conversation with Ruth. One of the initial things she said that really stuck out to me was this idea that we typically do not value the things that come easily to ourselves. And that really resonated with me because we talk to moms all the time, right? And so many of the moms that I know, myself included, we tend to downplay what we're good at. We downplay the strengths that we have, and we look at other people and we almost put on a pedestal what their strengths are, and we do this comparison thing. So I really, really loved this idea of learning to value the things that come naturally to you, the things that are easy for you, because just because it's easy to you doesn't mean that it's not something valuable that is maybe challenging for other people. And I see that with so many moms. So that really resonated with me. And I also appreciated the message, it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle it. I think that's something we hear from all the gurus in the world, but it always bears repeating because I think it's just a message to take home and leave in your heart. We all face challenges, we all struggle, and we always have a choice. And I'm not saying it's easy in the moment. It might take a week or a month or a year to get there, but we can keep making that choice, and how we choose to respond to or handle or think about the things that are happening in our life. And
Yeah.
I also really loved her message that it's not enough to love our children. At first, I was a little taken aback, but as she continued talking, I saw where she was going, and it absolutely makes sense. It's not enough to love our children. We also have to find out if they feel loved and seen. So many moms that I talked to who had loving parents, but struggle with some aspect of the parent-child relationship. I think it comes down to that. It's not that they
Yeah.
weren't loved, but it's that the parent maybe wasn't doing it in a way that made the child feel loved and seen. It goes maybe into our different love languages or
I was
our
just going to say
different.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we all do something in a way that feels right to us, but we need to take that hat off and put ourselves in someone else's shoes and see if we're doing it in a way that means something to them. And I think especially with our children, that becomes very important.
I wrote those down too. And the way you had rephrased them was just beautiful. I wrote them both down. And as you were talking to me, and as she was saying it, it is this internal battle of trying to make sure that our kids feel loved and thinking that I am listening to them, but how many times they say to me, "You're not listening to me." And it's confusing to me because I'm like, but I am listening to you. I think it's just that you're not getting what you want. Like I'm pushing back on your demand for something and you feel like I'm not listening to you. So it's this really difficult, it's really hard to discern whether I'm really not listening to them effectively or if it is because they're confused on them not getting what they want, meaning that I'm not listening to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thinking about this from my 6-year-old's perspective as well, I think sometimes it's also their communication abilities. So you are listening and you are hearing what they're saying, and it is what the words that they're using, but they're trying to say something different. And maybe this doesn't apply. Your girls are older, but I could also still see, having taught high schoolers, I can see how this would still
Oh,
maybe
it's
apply,
applicable.
where they're saying something and you're hearing and you're responding, but there's actually something else they're trying to say and they just don't quite have the words or the right way to communicate it, and they want you to read their mind. They
Yeah.
want you to understand what they're trying to say. And I can think of several examples with former students where it was like my job was basically to read between the lines of what they were saying
Yes, between the lines, which then
yeah.
takes us back to what I said originally, where we have to stay curious and open and the answer will come. But it does take a little bit of digging and patience. So,
Yeah.
and that's not
Yeah.
always easy in the moment.
It is absolutely not. And I think it's one of those things that we might be really good at it one day and really awful at it the next day. It's not something that we're going to get right every time. And speaking of things that we're not going to get right every time, I also, in this first part of our conversation, loved her discussion about role modeling. She mentions phones, which is a endless nightmare in my house, between me and my partner, not so much my child, but for
Yet,
us. And
yet.
we are role model. Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. But I think about it all the time. We are role modeling these behaviors, and we constantly say, not TV time, no TV during dinner, but yet we're checking our phones for different work things. And it's always work related, but our screens are there in front of us. And I don't know, she mentions the role modeling piece a couple times throughout this conversation. And I think that's really powerful to be aware of. It's not what we say, but what we do. So,
Absolutely. We are continuing our discussion with Ruth next week, and we will be going into some wonderful discussions on parenting. She talks us through how to make time to be active and present as a parent. She also talks to us in more detail about her authentic empowerment programs for children and teens. And we talk a bit about some of the intentionally focused areas that they have. We list some of them, and some of them are how kids can learn to use their gifts and talents, as well as valuing their gifts and talents, feeling seen and feeling heard and feeling validated. It's a really great discussion.
definitely worth a listen. We've enjoyed hanging out with you today, friend. We hope you got to finally enjoy a hot cup of coffee as you listened. Make sure you follow us so you're the first to know when we drop a new episode.
If you've enjoyed your time with us, let us know by leaving a review. We always love hearing from you. Until next time, stay true to you.